Three, two, one. Hey guys, it's Todd with Project 9. Welcome to Personal Development Hacks and the episode for the day. Here with Project 9, we mainly focus on if you want more out of your income and your relationships and you want a simple way to get there in 8 weeks or less, that's where we can help. So we've got a special guest. Her name is Kris Ashley. Hi, Kris.
Hi, Todd. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun. So for the audience out there that doesn't know you or kind of what you're focused on, why don't you go ahead and take a few minutes and introduce yourself and what you're doing?
Yeah, totally. Thanks. So I'm a coach, I'm an author, I'm a speaker. I just published a book called Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality. It's available in paperback, ebook, audiobook. And I am a spiritual personal development coach. So I help people create the perfect life of their dreams, help them get there using quantum field and law of attraction. But I also focus a lot on removing the blocks that keep you from being able to manifest the life of your dreams. So things like unconscious programming, belief systems, repressed emotions, not forgiving. So it's kind of a really rounded approach to being able to help you live your best life.
No, that's awesome. And it's, you and I have, maybe a little bit different approach to getting to the end result, but the end result being the same thing. And in helping people create and manifest their own version of what their best life looks like. You can have 1,000 different people in a room and you're going to have 1,000 different ideas of what that ultimate looks like. But it's getting people to realize that the only person in control of that is themselves. It's not luck. It's not, family fortune or Powerball tickets. It's your own intention and your own work. Exactly. So just to start off, just a little bit of a curiosity, how much, like you said, you deal a lot with helping people see and overcome like roadblocks and stuff like those. How much of those are self-imposed versus society imposed?
That's a really great question. So a lot of our subconscious programming happens before the age of 7. Like 90% of it happens before the age of 7, because kids up to 6, 7 years old are in a theta brainwave state most of the time. It's basically they're in hypnosis. So when we say kids are a sponge, they're literally a sponge. They're being programmed quite literally. So it's the opinions of the adults that you grew up around, cultural conditioning, the kids who made fun of you on the playground, that teacher who says, oh, you're a great singer, or, oh, you're not very good at math. Like all of these things become our inner voice, our inner lens, and eventually our belief system, right? That we talk to ourselves with, that we see the world through. But you can always reprogram all of that, right? So that's where the work that I do, and probably you do as well, comes in.
Yeah, and I've heard this on numerous occasions, that 7-year-old is like that magic number where, 0 to 7 is basically 100% just download mode.
Yeah.
Where it's just taking all of the information, all that programming in. And it's not till 7, 8 years old that you start to, become a little bit more individual, start to react to things, start to develop your own self. But it's all based on all those downloads you've received over that first 6 or 7 years of life. So besides that, because yes, those are self-imposed, but I think the reaction to those is self-imposed. And granted, it's, like you said, like external factors, teachers, friends, experiences. But as people get to 20s, 30s, 40s and beyond, how much of people's choices in terms of, like what they're doing or the life that they're leading or their goals and aspirations is tampered by societal expectations?
Well, I think the second part for the first question you asked is yeah, most of that is self-imposed after that, right? And especially when I was talking before about things like repressed emotions, right? Not feeling your emotions, um, being driven by ego versus our more vertical higher self, right? And a lot of that also comes from societal programming. Things like holding on to grudges, not forgiving. So all of that is poison, right? And holding on to poison only hurts you. And our inner world quite literally creates our outer world. But so many people focus on their fear, their doubts, their worries, their insecurities. And all of that starts to manifest in their outer world, right? Because what you focus on becomes your reality, right? Your belief systems create your thoughts create your emotions, and with your emotions, you use either the law of attraction or the reticular activation system or the quantum field, depending on how woo woo you want to look at it or how scientific you want to look at it. But either way, it's all pieces of the same, right? It's all different sides of the same coin, and you use that to create your reality. So you really are quite literally in control of your own reality. Now, when you focus on what you want, your goals, your dreams, feeling good, those high vibration emotions, you get to call more of that into your life. So we are always creating. We're conscious creators. But sometimes we just don't realize it, and we're focusing on our aches and pains and all of the annoying people we had to deal with during our busy day and all the emails piling up in our inbox, and all of that starts to take over our life rather than focusing on what we really want.
Yeah, no, I completely agree in that. I think it's what you see and what you focus on, and then as well being like having clarity,
Yeah.
because like you said, all the people and all the stuff that you had happening on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever, that brings that fog and that cloud cover into your clarity as to what you're focused on and what you want to accomplish. And a lot of times you get, in I mean, as I'm sure you're aware, it's like in coaching circles, it's shiny object syndrome. Like someone comes out with something new and it's like, ooh, what's that?
Hmm.
And in life in general, I think the same thing happens, that whatever is yelling the loudest or the nearest to you grabs your attention and your focus away from ultimately what you're creating and what you're wanting to do, um, as well as, you know regardless of how you got there. But if you're 40 years old and you look at it, you're like, I want more. I need, if you want different, you have to do something different. And I think for everybody out there, it's like when you want something and you decide, I'm going to do something different, the first thing that comes up is fear, and doubt. It's like you're afraid of, uh, well, what if I do this and it doesn't work? What if I do this and I'm not successful? What are my friends going to think? What's my family going to think? Um, is it going to be another thing that I did that didn't work out for me? And unfortunately, if you're unhappy in your current situation and something, you make a decision to look into something and you ultimately decide to let fear and let that doubt make you not do it, the worst thing that happens is you're going right back to the life that you already said, I'm not happy with where I'm at. And I think that's a big part for everyone to understand is if you just change that lens a little bit to think, instead of all the stuff that could go wrong, if you look at it and you say, what if I do this and it works? Like, what then? And it's like it's a whole different approach to it, because you start thinking about, well, if I do this and it works, I'm getting that much closer, I'm making this much more progress. And then it starts to build and grow because your confidence is up, your energy's up, you start living, like you said, that higher vibration type of life and existence. And let's face it, the more that you do it, the more you attract others and other things to you, instead of you having to go seek out, like, every opportunity, and just you're wringing that rag to get the last opportunity. It's amazing what happens when you start getting there, because you don't even have to think about it. They just show up at your front door. And
Mhm.
you almost have the opposite problem. Then you have to get comfortable saying no.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have so much to say about everything you just said, because I agree so much. And I think you touched on like 5 different chapters in my book throughout everything you just said. Because I write
You
about all
you
of that because
you
it's
you
so
you did give me a copy. You did give me a copy.
true. That's where you're getting all these great ideas. No, I'm just
Yes.
no, and just to speak on what you said about clarity, there's so many people out there who are like, I know I'm not happy. I know I want more, right? More wealth, more impact on the world, more loving connections. I want to be a better person, a better partner, a better parent. But they don't know, they don't have that big goal in mind, right? They don't know what it is they really want. So getting clear is really the first step. And there's a lot of different exercises I do in the book, or I take my clients through, to understand like what it is you really want. Get clear on that vision. And then, like you said, the next thing to do is take steps towards it, because when you take steps towards it, it just brings momentum to the universe, right? And then it snowballs from there. And just a small step can do a lot. And I love that you were talking about how people always question, like, what if, what if, what if? Like, I think it's so much scarier to ask, what if I don't? What if you don't follow your dreams? What if you don't live the life you really want? Like, you don't want to be 100 years old on your deathbed thinking about, all of those things that you could have done, and all of those other people's opinions and all of that junk. It's not going to matter then, right? All that's going to matter is if you did it or not. And, so many people are living the same year over and over and over again because nothing's changing. And you nailed it again. You said, in order to have something that you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. So, if you're thinking the same thoughts, if you have the same beliefs, if you're feeling the same emotions, it's triggering the same chemistry reactions in your body, and you're quite literally reliving the past over and over and over again, and nothing new is happening. And then you're wondering why all these things that you hope and pray for aren't happening. It's because you're stuck in this loop.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's at some point you have to, if you want that something different, you have to break that cycle.
Yeah,
When the loop starts turning right, you go, I'm going left.
right.
And you have to make that choice. I think it was, I heard this, I think it was Ryan Serhant said it once in something that he had on like YouTube or something, but he said something to the effect of, cemeteries are a gold mine of lost opportunities.
Hmm. Wow.
And it resonates because he's absolutely right. There's so many people that live their days, and they had every opportunity to do something different, more impactful, to make those changes in their life. And there's a good amount of people that do, but there's a lot more people that don't. They just, like you said, they live on, just that circle that keeps coming back to the same spot day after day, year after year.
It reminds me of this statistic I saw just a few days ago, that 90% of people don't achieve their goals. And it's either because they get frustrated when things don't work out right away and they give up, or more commonly, they're so fearful to get started that they don't even get started in the first place. They have all these goals and dreams, but like you said, it's just that fear that stops people. But the thing is, like, when you step outside of your comfort zone, that's when growth happens, right? That's when something new and exciting happens. And if we're going to get woo woo about it again, it's like the universe will put people on your path that are going to help you, right? Doors that didn't even exist are going to appear and open up. And you never know what's going to happen from doing something different, stepping outside of your comfort zone. And like you said, then the synchronicities start rolling in, right? And then it's like you're this creative, magical, powerful being all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think, I mean, just like for me personally, it's like I'm a living example of what happens when you make a conscious choice to do something different and you start to level up, how opportunities show up. This podcast being a prime example. I have a podcast not because I wanted one, not because I asked for one. It just showed up. Someone came to me and said, "Hey, you want to do a podcast?" And I was like, "Okay."
Yep.
And you get involved in a couple groups, and then I start to meet just some amazing people to where it's now like I've got publicists that are reaching out to me and saying, "I've got 3 clients that want to be on your show. I've got this, I've got that." And I'm like holding on like, "Okay, let's go." Like, the more the merrier. And some of the people that I've had the opportunity, yourself included, to meet and have really great discussions with is something that I never would have had if I wasn't leveling up and actually creating that resonance in my life that you know you don't know why. I mean, I haven't met you in person or anyone that I've met a few people, but there's something about it that it's just like, yeah, let's talk about this. And you and I both share the same vision. I mean, it's different ways of getting to that end goal, but it's really based on we want to help other people level up their lives. The rising ocean, the floats all boats. And that's exactly it. The more that we can get to people to control and level up their own lives, it's only going to help us along with all of them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to help all of humanity. And I just want to point out something when you were talking about that podcast. They offered you that position and you might have been scared, right? You might have never talked in front of people before. Who knows? But you did something really important. You said yes, right? And it's so important to say yes until you have a really good reason to say no. And it seems like I see all over social media these days, like, set your boundaries, say no, say no. And it's like, but say yes. Say yes until you have a good reason to say no. Boundaries are important, but if you don't say yes to opportunities, the opportunities are going to dry up, right? And as you say yes to one, that next one is going to roll in. And then you get to meet all these amazing people. And yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, it's a good problem to have if you are at a level in your life like Warren Buffett, where he says no 99 out of 100 times, but he doesn't not evaluate all of them. It's just he picks the right opportunity. And that's what he wouldn't have 100 opportunities cross his desk if he wasn't open to them. It's just, you have to be open and have the right mindset of, I mean, who knows? The next person you talk to could be the key that unlocks the rest of your life and future and whatever. And if you're not open to it, you never get there.
Exactly. And with Warren Buffett, I seriously doubt that he is saying no out of fear, right? He's not making a decision out of a place of fear, which is such a big differentiator, right? With so many people. He, like you said, he's really looking for the right opportunities. So oftentimes because of fear, we tend to talk ourselves out of things. But we never want to make a decision from a place of fear.
No. And you're right. And that's where, part of that fear is it's born out of, uncomfort.
Yeah.
And you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Totally.
Because you don't grow in comfort. If you're doing the same thing every day, you're not growing. if you're doing something different or something that just makes you kind of like, I don't know, you're growing and you get used to it, talking on camera, talking in front of other people, talking to other people sometimes. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. And it's not because, yes, it's because you're getting used to it, but it's because you're growing in that role of having those discussions or getting in that room and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then suddenly it's not that scary thing anymore. It's just something that you're getting really good at, maybe even having fun with.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. So we're about 20 minutes in. So Kris, I want to give you the opportunity just to let people know how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm all over social media. I'm at Change Your Mind with Kris with a K on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all over. And that little URL you see at the bottom, if you purchase my book through that URL, you will get the course that goes hand in hand with it for free. So again, my book is called Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality. And the URL is changeyourmindtochangeyourreality.com/order book. Thank you for giving me that opportunity to plug myself a little bit.
Yeah, no, of course. And I've just started it, but it is definitely a worthwhile read because it's all based on a lot of stuff that we're talking about today. So that's awesome. And then for us here, guys, just go to go.project9life.com. If you truly want more out of your income, out of your relationships, you want a simple plan that can get you there in 8 weeks or less, just go there, book a call. It's a complimentary call. It's we just want to talk about like where you're at, where you're going, and how we can help you get there. Most it's going to cost you is a half hour out of your day. And then if you go to YouTube at Project 9 Life, subscribe to the channel. All of the podcasts, this one included, are all there. So you can, get like I've had the opportunity to do and just meet some amazing people and listen to some great information all being shared by people all over. So, but yeah, it's, talking about like with uncomfort or, stepping outside and not letting that fear and stuff like that get a hold of you. It truly starts with a conscious decision. It's not something that you fall into or that just happens. Like, especially if it's uncomfortable or new, it's something you consciously have to make a decision. Like, I'm going to do this, and yes, it's going to be terrible at the outset.
Yeah.
But the more I do it, the better I'm going to get at it, the more comfortable I'll become with it. And then the weirdest thing happens is as soon as you start getting comfortable with it, you start to want other stuff too. And you start to want more. And that's going to make you even more uncomfortable. But now you're coming from a place of, I did this, I'm going to do something else. And that's going to make me more uncomfortable, but I know I can do it. And that's where you really start to see a true trajectory change in your life, because you're going to be looking for more and more and more.
Yeah, and you almost get hooked on growth, don't you? Like,
oh, yeah.
Getting out of my comfort zone is one of my favorite things in the world, because I know on the other side of it there's massive growth. And honestly, that's the same way I feel about challenges and adversities coming through life, because just because you're leveling up and growing and expanding doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen, right? Life's still going to happen. There's still going to be challenges. You're still going to go through hard times. But on the other side of all of that is growth. Like, we are here to learn and grow and have experiences. So yeah, the more you put yourself out there, the more you want more, and it just becomes fun. Life becomes this fun game. It's like, what else can I do? What else can I learn? How else can I level up?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And like, I love the term like addicting, because in a positive way, obviously, but It does. It's like if you look at the most successful people out there, and I'm not talking strictly monetarily, just successful people, they get to that level and then you see them continuing to go
Yep.
because they're constantly looking for what's next, what's next, what's next.
Yep.
And it becomes like they don't even have to think about it. They just know, like, their body and their soul is hungry for growth, and they have to feed it. Like, you have to just keep putting that in, otherwise your body's going to look at you and go, what are we doing now? And it all, spirituality or energy or vibration, like, it's all feeding on that growth and that challenge and that uncomfortableness, to where your body's like, ooh, not liking that so much. Wait, I've done this 7 times before. I got this figured out. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. You almost become insatiable, don't you?
Yeah. Well, and the perfect, like, analogy that I've got for this is, I live in Colorado, so I go hiking in the mountains all the time. And if you're not in a growth or that positive mindset, what happens is you go to Berthoud Pass or whatever, and you hike and you get up to 13,000 feet or whatever, and you look around and you see all these other peaks laid out in front of you. If you're in not the right mindset, you look out and you go, oh my God, look at all these other obstacles that are out there. But when you have made that change, you look out and you see that same picture and you go, God, look at all these opportunities that are just waiting for me to get there. And it's such a great feeling because it just puts everything in perspective. It's like, you get it just, you can't quench that thirst of, like, I want it, like, I want more and more and more. And it could be health or money or whatever, but it's like, it's within you that you're just constantly striving for that. What is next?
Yeah, and it can be really fun too. You can almost gamify it. You're like, well, what else can I achieve? Let me set this goal that 5 years ago I would have thought was absolutely crazy, and, like, let's see myself meet that. And you just build your confidence, right? And you start to feel like this superhuman version of yourself. And yeah, I love your analogy about the peaks. That's so beautifully said. I always say that, it's in every adversity and challenge and heartbreak in life or tragedy in life, there's a hidden Easter egg, right? And if you can find it, then tremendous growth and leveling up takes place. But it's the same idea that you can look at things and think that you can let them bring you down, right? You can think, oh, life is out to get me, life is happening to me, all of these horrible things are happening. Or you shift your perspective and you say, wow, life is really happening for me. That was actually really a gift. That was actually really a beautiful lesson. Wow, what a cool opportunity that was to grow. And look how far I came since I learned that. And, like, let's see what else is next. What's else is coming down the pipeline. So yeah, it's there's 2 ways to live your life, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like, the easiest kind of equation that I've got is, like, when you walk around, are you heads down or heads up? Because if your head's down, opportunity is not on the concrete that's right in front of you.
Yeah, you're gonna miss it.
Opportunity is everywhere else. And if your head's down, those opportunities are there. They're just running by you, going to someone who's looking for stuff and has their head up and can see it. And that's that transition that you need to make, is like, no one's running down the street with a suitcase with $1 million going, who wants it? And first
Right.
person with their head up. But there are opportunities that you're never more than 1 or 2 steps away from that person that can change everything for you. It's like the old adage, it's none of us are more than 7 steps from Kevin Bacon. But it's like, you're probably a lot closer to someone that can actually make that dramatic impact and have an opportunity or something that you didn't know about, you're probably only a couple steps from that person.
Or not even yes, a person, but also it could just be a step that you need to take, right? It
Yeah.
may be joining a club or, whatever it is, doing something. And again, it's going to open up all of these doors. And you might be looking at that thing like, oh, that's scary. Oh, that's not really on my path. That's not really in alignment with what I want. But you don't know that. You have no idea what kind of opportunities are going to happen from taking that one step. I recently joined Toastmasters just as an example, and I was like, oh, I love speaking in front of people, but we've all been online for the last several years. It'd be good to just get out and speak in front of people. And I had tremendous opportunities from that. I met my new business partner from that, and that's not something that I ever saw coming. And it's not someone whose path I would have even crossed in the real world. And now we're starting to put on all these like amazing events around the Bay Area, and that's something I wanted to do, but I didn't know that just joining a Toastmasters club would open that up for me. So you never really know. And that might be terrifying to you to do that, but yeah, just because it doesn't feel in alignment with what your overall goal is doesn't mean that it's not going to be that thing that unlocks it all.
Yeah. So I'm going to describe something, and I want to know, just from your perspective, if you have had the experience with your clients, or like just kind of get your take on it. So anytime you start something new, right? When you start out, it is what you're doing, like, be it wealth or relationships or health or whatever. It's what you're doing. Like, you start walking every day. That's what you're doing. You're looking at all alternative opportunities to generate cash flow. That's what you're doing. Same thing with a spouse or whatever. Okay, you're working to improve the relationship. That's what you're doing. And then there's this really cool transition that happens. The longer you do it and the more you make progress, it stops becoming what you're doing and it becomes who you are.
Oh yeah.
And that is the coolest moment, because I've seen it. Like, someone will be week 5, they're on a group coaching call on Zoom, and they're sitting there and they're attentive and they're involved and they're talking. And then you see them the next week and all of a sudden they're like this. And their energy is up, their confidence is up, they're louder, they're more animated, they have an opinion on everything, and it's like you just flipped. And I asked people, like, flat out, what was it? And it's like, I had this lady, Wendy, and she was really focused on like health or something like that, and she's like, after about 6 weeks, she was like, for the first 6 weeks, everyone was asking me like what I was doing. I was looking fine. My clothes were baggy. What am I eating? What am I working out? Everyone was asking me. And she goes, last week was the first week that no one asked me. And I was like, well, why is that important? And she says, because that was just who I was. I was healthy, and it was who I was. It's no longer like what I was doing to get to a certain level. I had reestablished, like, I just show up and this is me now. And she goes, and she just went on for like 10 minutes. And I'm looking on camera and I see people just like feverishly taking notes, because for her, that was her breakthrough moment of, she realized, like, she wasn't on a path to get fit. She was fit, and she had basically taken her steps up the ladder and the floor was right there. And she had reestablished a new level of herself and a new her.
That's a really empowering story. I love that. And it's so true. Our habits become who we are, right? If you do something enough and repeat it, and it becomes your day-to-day thing that you prioritize over everything else, then yeah, it becomes who you are. And then you get to move on to the next thing, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, that's such an empowering feeling, and I love watching people have those breakthroughs.
Oh, it's like the most rewarding thing that, like, as a coach, that you can see, like someone actually make that transition, and it happens all the time. She was very demonstrative about it, but like you see that transition happen, and you know who knows what she's going to go on and what her next is and what she's going to accomplish, because she is brimming with confidence and everything. That's just, it's going to drive her and fuel her for the rest of her life, because she ain't going back, she's going forward. And
Right.
that there's it's so powerful to just be a part of and see, because it inspired her, it inspired me, and I guarantee there was probably 15 other people on that call that were like, they're like, okay, I want some of that.
Definitely. And I think that's such a great message to everyone, even to listeners right now. You can reinvent yourself at any time. It doesn't matter if you're 20, it doesn't matter if you're 70. You can reinvent yourself, and your past doesn't define you, right? The situations you've gone through, your health, your level of education, your experiences, none of that defines your future unless you allow it to. So you get to reinvent yourself as many times as you'd like. And this is available to everyone. Again, you just have to have that clear goal. You have to take steps towards it, and you have to show up for yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's very, very well said. So, all right, so a question for you, it's a couple parts. Were you a coach, speaker, or author first?
So I have always been a writer. Like since I was a little kid, like dictating stories to my parents to write down. And I got my undergrad, my bachelor's and my master's in creative writing. But I this is the first self-help kind of personal development book that I've written. So I would say that. And my path, if you want, I can actually share my background and how I came to this work. That might be interesting for people.
Please do.
We're talking
Yeah.
about reinventing yourself and not being your past. And
Yes.
what's that?
I'm Captain Segway.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm sure it's a familiar story because so many of us come from our own trauma, right? That kind of is what sparked us into, whether you call it spiritual awakening or just like, hey, something needs to change here. So when I was younger, when I was 12 years old, I was sexually abused by a family member. And I had this really big, tight-knit, extended Italian family, and everyone was in each other's business and just really close. And when they found out what happened, most of them disowned me. And as you can imagine, this left me with all of these negative emotions like anger and guilt and shame that as an adolescent, I didn't know how to cope with, right? Most adults don't know how to cope with those types of emotions. And so I started getting in trouble in school. I was self-harming. I was doing all the bad things. And my life changed when someone handed me a book. And this actually goes really well when we were talking about being insatiable and wanting more. So someone handed me a book, and I remember reading it and thinking, wow, this feels like the truth. And I like to say I was like a sleeper agent, right? Something inside of me just woke up, and it made me realize there were other ways of thinking and being and moving through life than this small little tunnel vision that I had had. And when I finished that book, I started reaching for more. And I, again, became insatiable. I started devouring every metaphysical, spiritual, personal development, psychology book that I could get my hands on. And I started finding all these teachers to study under. I was doing all these healing modalities. And I didn't know it, but I was doing all the hard inner work. It just felt really good. And I just wanted more. And my life started to change. But at the same time that my life was starting to change, my mother began to get worse. So her family had been ripped down the seams, and she didn't have these teachers and these books and these healing modalities that I did. And so it started to manifest as physical illness for her. So she became really, really sick with cancer and with other serious illnesses, but also with very strange afflictions that her doctors at Northwestern in Chicago couldn't even explain. And so they do what they did. They did what they do. I mean, they were giving her pills, and then they were giving her pills for the side effects of those pills, and just kind of throwing anything at the wall, hoping something would stick. And so she was very over medicated. And she slept for all but a few hours of daylight. She would fall down all the time. She would nod off at the dinner table. She would forget conversations we had the day prior. And this lasted almost 15 years. And I had this compounded guilt that I had destroyed my family and broken my mother. But I like to say that in the end, my mother was my biggest teacher, because I watched her take steps deeper and deeper into depression and illness. And I saw what happened to a human body and spirit when they make that choice. And then I saw what was happening to my own body and spirit as I was changing my mind about life, about the nature of reality, about everything that we are talking about today. And so I made a promise to myself, and it's a promise that I have kept to this day, that I would do everything I could to heal physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and I would always prioritize my health in those categories. And so for about 2 decades, I was just immersed in all of this, and I was creating the life of my dreams. I've crafted the life of my dreams. You know, people meet me now that don't know my past, and they're like, that girl's never been through anything. Like, things come easy to her, right? Which is kind of funny. But eventually I decided it was time to give back. So I launched my coaching company a few years ago. I wrote the book to go hand in hand with it, and I started speaking publicly. So it kind of all, that's a really long-winded way to answer your question, but it kind of all came into fruition at once. Just out of this need to give back, because I saw how much it changed my life and how many people are out there still struggling. So.
Yeah. And that's, the thing that, like, I love hearing about you, and like, me with my company and a lot of coaches out there, is it's all from personal experience.
Oh yeah.
It's not like, I took a starter course on how to personally teach coaching development. It's like, no, like you, it's like, look, I've been through challenges. I faced them. This is what I did. This is the successes that I've had. These are the challenges that I faced. Here's how I got around those challenges. And this is ultimately kind of what has manifested itself through this program. Oh, and by the way, here it is. And it's just, it's all personal stuff that's like, why am I not going to share this? Because you're right. There's so many other people that are going through the same stuff that, you faced earlier in life. I faced, a decade ago, stuff like that. And it would be, it's like, it would be selfish for me not to share that stuff and not to reach out and put myself out there on podcasts, in coaching programs, on social media, basically saying, here I am. If you want to judge me, that's great. It's not going to change anything that I'm talking about. And, I'm just here to help, and help others, because, I'm not the only one that's gone through it.
And if I can do it, so can you, right? Yeah. Look how far I've come, and look how far you can come too, right? Yeah. Like, we're not anything special. Like, we're not like gurus. We're not mystics. We're not,
There is no cape in my closet. No.
Yeah, I don't. Exactly. Yeah. We're just regular people who just went through it and figured it out. And now it's like, here's our roadmap. Here's what worked for us.
Yeah. And that's, you're absolutely right. And there's, the thing is there's, I mean, Toastmasters probably taught you just as much as like your public speaking and everything. It's like whenever we talk or on a podcast, like my expectation is not that whatever audience is out there watching it, that 100% of you are going to absorb and take in 100% of what we're talking about.
For sure.
No, it's my only goal every single episode, every talk, every presentation, everything is that yes, I want to impact everyone in the audience, but my only goal is that you take one thing that I talk about, just one thing that you're going to take action on, because otherwise it's just words. It's like writing a goal down and then taking it and burning it in a fireplace. It does no good. So that's the thing, is like, just take one thing that you're like, this is what I'm doing, and start with one and just see where that gets you and then build on it. Because once you get that success and you get that little taste of, wait, I set out to do something and I did, you're going to want more. And that's not because of you or I, that's just a human being a human. It's your body and your soul telling you, yeah, we like that. Can we have some more of that, please?
Totally. And for that other 99% that maybe that person didn't absorb, we can't underestimate the power of planting seeds either, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just because someone isn't ready to hear it now doesn't mean that that hasn't seeped into their subconscious, and at a later date, it's going to be like, oh, it's going to click. Or maybe you have 20 guests on that all say the same thing, and number 21 says it in just a different way, and it just resonates with someone, and they just hear it differently. So that's why these conversations are so important.
Yeah. And it's I think when I first got into coaching and everything like that, like like anyone else, like I was naive a little bit, like, well, I'll give clues as to what I can do, but I don't want to share my good stuff because I got to make money too, and blah blah blah. And it was actually Alex Hormozy who said, whenever you're in public and you're sharing your message, he's like, you should share your best stuff and don't be worried about like, oh God, I just let the cat out of the bag and now I gave it all away for free. Because you're right, that absorption and that, those other things, it's like, if you give all of this stuff and all this great information out in a public forum, what that does is it takes people out there and go, if that was what I got just for turning it into a podcast, I wonder what he's going to say live, or I wonder what else I get, in this program. And there's, like you said, it's like, you were being a secret agent. It's like, I don't want to be a coach in the witness protection program. Like, I want to put all of this stuff out because the benefit on the clients and society in general are huge, and, just having whatever people that we impact just raise up a little bit, it impacts far beyond that, because they've got friends, they've got people that see them that start to want those same things as well.
Yeah, it's so true. And I totally did the same thing when I first started coaching that you did. And then I kind of learned, and I love Alex Hormozy also. I'm reading one of his books right now. But it made me think of, I can't remember who said it. There was a quote I saw recently that was like, you should read books, like read as many books as you can, like nonfiction books, because you get 100, 200 pages of people's best information, their best tips, their best thoughts, and it's all for free, or for the $3 you pay for the audiobook or whatever it is. And people put their best information in their books, right? So and you could get to be in their mind and figure out their process. So
yeah, and by reading it, you can read it again.
Yeah,
like it's not a one time, like, oh, you read this book once and now it's gone forever.
Right.
It's I mean, like I don't do audiobooks. It disagrees with me. So I actually buy physical books, but I do it intentionally because I've got a pad of paper, a pen, and a highlighter. And I'm going through and I'm highlighting and I'm writing stuff down, and it's stuff that is for me. It's stuff that's for the program. It's stuff that I can share, um, and it's all just out there. And the way that I look at it is, you and I, we're conduits
Yeah.
for all of this information, that all of this experience and people and other people's experience. We're just conduits to take all of that and then share it with our audiences, who might not know who Alex Harmozy is, or might not know who Grant Cardone is, or some of these other people. But when they're sharing it through a book, or a class or whatever, they're giving that stuff away. And so I'm going to take it, incorporate it, do what I do with it, and then I'm going to turn around and share it. And it's just
Exactly.
That way, yeah, I agree. You should read a lot. I mean, I don't drink anymore, so my liquor cabinet is now my library.
Nice.
But you should, because it helps you think, and it helps you be creative, and it can be inspiring to think, like you said, God, someone else did this. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And that little spark is sometimes what it takes.
Yeah. That person's no more special than you. And I love that you take notes and write it down, because that makes you retain information 100% better. And what you said is so important about, using other people's material, because I mean, that's the way I look at it too. I spent 2 decades studying under different teachers, going to different workshops, trying all these modalities. And there's probably a lot of people out there in the world that haven't gone to every single workshop, read every single teacher. And to be able to synthesize that material in a way that is really comprehensible, and to also be able to connect it with each other. It's like, hey, this author and this author from 2 different total genres, right? Maybe one writes about quantum physics, one writes about spirituality, one writes about investments. Like, how can we actually connect this together in a way that really clicks and makes sense? Because so much of it is all connected, and people people need other people like you and me to geek out and read all the information and go through and find the best, most helpful pieces, and then make it really simple and clear, and even put it into a step-by-step process on how to implement it, right? So it's, yeah, I don't think that anyone is stealing anyone else's information. I used to run a yoga teacher training. I also own a yoga company, and we would tell the new teachers this all the time. We're like, don't try and reinvent the wheel. Like, here's your bullet points to say for every pose. Like, even if someone's heard 1,000 teachers say, like, seal your back heel down in Warrior One, you might say it in a different way that it suddenly registers with them, right? Or you're going to figure out ways that it feels right in your body to say. But you start with what works for you, because
Right.
that's what's important. If something worked for you, then it's going to work for someone else, and you're going to be able to explain it in a way that the original source couldn't even explain it, because you've made it personal through your own experience.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, like, you've got your own way of saying it in your own voice, and I've got mine. And all of these other people out there, they all have their own voices. But when we get clients and we have the opportunity to share, it's taking all of those different voices and stuff that we've heard and interpreting it, and then putting it out in our own voice in a way that makes sense for us, and that we hope resonates with our clients. And it could be, someone else said it, and I give credit where it's due. I'm like, no, this is who said this.
Yeah.
But it's our own way of approaching it and saying it. So
Exactly. And sometimes you even do make it your own. Maybe you try a modality from someone and you're like, "Oh, it actually works better for me when I do these extra steps or I do this a little different." And then
Yeah.
suddenly it is your own thing, right?
No, you're absolutely right, because everyone's path throughout everything is unique. It's their own. Um, and that's the beauty of being human, you know? So, all right, Chris, we've got about 45 seconds left. So I will let you wrap us up and then kick us out of here.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And, I hope everyone stays in touch. Again, follow me. I'm at Change Your Mind with Chris. My book is Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality. And I'm just so appreciative for conversations like this with like minded people. So thank you, Todd. I really appreciate you having me on the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed it thoroughly because it's like-minded people, and it's been a great conversation, and hopefully our viewing audience is gonna, like we said, take one thing and take action on it starting tomorrow, not next week, not New Year's, tomorrow. So, but thanks for joining Personal Development Hacks. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and we will see you guys later.